Hello, I'm Piper, and in today's video I want to talk about my own personal tier list for all the Pokemon in Pokemon Unite. I've seen quite a few tier lists, and they're all quite varied, which I quite like. I think it's quite good for a game if, no one's got if there isn't like a strong opinion on these are the 10 best Pokemon. Sometimes you see Venusaur quite high, quite low. Charizard seems to go up and down a lot of people's tier lists. But what I have noticed in a lot of tier lists is they lump all the Pokemon together, which I don't want to do. I want to talk about in the Pokemon within their own role, because I don't really feel like comparing Aldagos to Gengar is useful. Like if your team needs support, there's no point looking at a tier list and going, ooh, Gengar, Zeraora, and Pikachu are the three best Pokemon in the game, according to, Gaming Intel or whoever. It's kind of pointless. If you need the support, you want to know who the best support is. So, with that being said, I'm going to begin with defenders, and then support, then all-rounders and attackers, and then finally with probably the most important people on the team, no offense to everyone else, the speedsters. So to begin with then, defenders. There's currently, as of right now, 3 defenders in the game. Blastoise is coming soon, and no doubt by the time that I finished recording the whole of this tier list and putting it together and about to upload it, that's when Blastoise will appear. But for now, there's 3 Pokemon: Crustle, Slowbro, and Snorlax. So in third place for the defenders, and it breaks my heart to do this because they are my most played Pokemon by quite a margin, is Slowbro. Now, I'm not saying Slowbro is bad, because I think almost every Pokemon in the game pretty good and can be used to quite a high standard. But I do feel like Slowbro is the least intimidating tank. Now, what Slowbro does bring to the table is very good single target CC with telekinesis and his ultimate. If you are the target of these 2 moves, you are locked down what feels like a lifetime. You might as well leave the game and go get a cup of tea, because you ain't doing anything for the next 10 seconds. Which at that point, either you're dead or the team's dead, the team fight's over, and then you can die afterwards. However, there are some drawbacks to the single target CC. Firstly, it can be quite hard to hit. A lot of Pokemon in the game are very mobile. And the odds are, with Slowbro, you're going to be wanting to hit Gengar or Zeraora or the most fed Pokemon on the other team. So as everyone's quite mobile, and even if they aren't mobile, they might have a eject button, it can be difficult to hit them, which makes the move completely pointless. If you miss telekinesis, that's it. It's not like Surf or Grussel's Wall, where it still might have a use. It's just gone. The second issue is even if you hit the move, you can be knocked out of it. I've noticed this is a particular problem against Ninetales, who can either freeze you or knock you back, and it takes you out of your telekinesis. The other issue with his CC is it locks the enemy in place, but also locks Slowbro in place. So if you don't hit an important Pokemon, the other 4 Pokemon on the enemy team can just ignore you and kill everyone else. So they're the reasons why I'm not a huge fan of Slowbro. Well, I'm a huge fan of Slowbro, but I do think Crustle and Snorlax are better choices. What Slowbro does have that's quite good is Surf. One of my favourite moves in the game. It's really useful. It provides multi-target CC. It can knock multiple Pokemon up multiple times, and it provides an escape for Slowbro if he's in danger. So there are some definite good sides to Slowbro. Slowbro is also quite easy to play. Similar to Snorlax. I think Slowbro and Snorlax are very easy, and Crustle's a bit harder, but I just think he lacks the extra utility that the other 2 Pokemon bring, and other than that, the damage is quite similar, but I do think the other 2 Pokemon bring a bit more to the table. Now, it was really a tough choice between these 2 Pokemon who was going to win the best defender on my tier list. But I've gone with Crustle. I feel both Pokemon bring great damage, CC, and survivability, but I feel Snorlax is a little bit easier to play. But I'll talk about Crustle first. His Rock Tomb is probably the move that everyone associates with Crustle, and it is an amazing move, and it's really fun to use. It can guarantee kills, force the enemy to burn important cooldowns, like eject button, and it can save lives. It can save your life to wall Pokemon away from you, or it can save a teammate's life. However, if you miss it, you can save the enemy's life, or you can doom yourself or your teammates to an unfortunate death. Now, like I mentioned with Slowbro, a lot of Pokemon in the game are very mobile, so it is quite easy to either miss the move or put it in a place where it isn't that useful. And so Gengar, for example, if they jump over it, or if you do it a second too late, it's where Gengar used to be and it's in the wrong place. However, Crustl's synergy with his wall is really good. Fury Cutter and Stealth Rock are the other two moves you can have. They are really good. You can either Fury Cutter, I think is the move that I see most used. It repeatedly hits the Pokemon, locks them in place, and you can just shove them into the wall, and it's a really fun move to use. Really annoying against you though. And Stealth Rock I don't think is as good, but you can use it to CC an area, and if you trap your Pokemon in your wall and then you Stealth Rock them, it can be very hard for them to escape, and it's just a really good combo. His ultimate as well, his Unite move, is also really good. Makes himself incredibly difficult to kill and mass CC similar to Slowbro's, and does every time he's there it does more damage. Really good move. And honestly, Crustle is incredibly, even without his ultimate, is incredibly tough to kill. The amount of times I've seen Crustle just walk away, no mobility at all on this Pokemon, just walks away from very powerful Pokemon and just lives. And I don't really know what it is that makes him so strong, but he just incredibly good Pokemon. Unfortunately, I think Snorlax is a little bit easier to play. Moving on then to Snorlax, who in my opinion is the best defender in Pokemon Unite. His belly flop is such a fun move to use, and it can hit multiple targets, stunning them all and dealing very good damage. He is a nightmare to escape from. He's just constantly it's like it's on like a 2-second cooldown. He's just constantly jumping at you. Horrible Pokemon to have chasing you. And it can also, of course, very good escape for himself. He can hop away similar to Slowbro on his Surf. And then on top of that, there's his damn barrier. Now, Slowbro can CC you for a long time, but I don't think there's anything quite as infuriating as Snorlax's barrier. Because with Slowbro's telekinesis, you have to accept, right, I'm stunned for like 3 seconds or whatever. With the Snorlax's barrier, you have hope. Every time you bounce off it, you think, right, I'm not going to be CC'd in a second, I can hop away. And then he bounces you again, and you're just permanently CC'd for the 3 or 4 seconds that it's up. It's incredibly annoying. It can also, which is what in my opinion makes him better than Slowbro, is he can use his barrier to hit 2 or 3 of you, even more of you if he's lucky. This is incredibly useful, particularly around team fights. You can literally push your enemy team away from Zapdos, and it's really fun to do it, and it can secure your team the game, and it's amazing. He is an amazing Pokemon. I think what also puts him above Crustle is his barrier is easier to use than Crustle's wall. You've just got to push it in the right direction and then just walk into the enemy Pokemon. It's also really good utility to defend your team because it hits your wall and it can't shoot past him. It's also really good against Gengar in particular. Gengar, he'll just bounce into your wall rather than jump over you. It's fantastic. There's not really any negatives to Snorlax that I can think of. His ult's really good. Perhaps it's not as mobile as Crustle's, but it does provide mass CC and it makes him incredibly hard to kill. He can also flop over, which is 1, hilarious, and 2, if you ult at the right place in the middle of the team, you can then just keep flopping around and continuously CCing anyone who's unfortunate enough to be caught in your radius. So for me, Slowbro in 3rd place, Crustle in 2nd, and the best defender in Pokemon Unite is Snorlax. Moving on to the supports then, similar to defenders, there's 3 of them. We have Aldegos, Mr. Mime, and Wigglytuff. And this first pick was one of the hardest choices I think I've had to make, and it's the only one that I'm really second guessing myself. And that is Mr. Mime in 3rd place. I do like Mr. Mime, but in the first 2 weeks, in maybe 200 odd games, I only saw like maybe 5 or 6 Mr. Mimes, and most of the time they were ineffectual. I felt like they were just there, they didn't really have any impact on the game. But I did play against a couple who were quite annoying. You know, they were able to hit the barrier, confusion combo, and I was like, oh, maybe there's some potential here. So in week 3, when Mr. Mime came free, I was eager to play him, and I was pleasantly surprised. He's really fun to play and potentially powerful. Particularly, I found his Guard Swap Psychic build to be probably the most fun. It's against a tank. So what Guard Swap does is you switch your defense stats with theirs. So in my case, I was against a Snorlax. So I became very tanky. He became quite squishy. What Psychic does is it summons a small AoE around you and your Guard Swapped Pokemon, and if an enemy Pokemon is caught in the AoE when it goes off after a second or two, they're stunned. So it makes Mr. Mime a very good, surprising 1v1 or 2v1 Pokemon. There was a couple of times where I either won a 2v1 fight or I was very close. So it's really fun to play. The more team-oriented combo, and the one that you will see most often, is Barrier and Confusion. Confusion does a bit of damage to Pokemon and knocks them back. And if they hit a terrain or your barrier, it does a lot of damage. Like, surprising amount of damage. And it's really good. The problem, and it's the problem with Mr. Mime in general, and it's why Mr. Mime is in third place here, is there's a lot of ifs. If you can Guard Swap with a tank. If they don't have a tank, your Guard Swap is sort of meh. And then even if you do Guard Swap, you can miss Guard Swap, by the way. That's an issue within itself. But even if you do Guard Swap, then you've got to overlap the AoEs to stun people, which is inconsistent. Again, the problem with Confusion and Barrier is how targeting works in Pokemon Unite is it tends to snap to the closest Pokemon to you when you cast a spell. So you'll press R in this case, I believe. It'll put the skill shot on the game for Confusion and it'll aim at the closest Pokemon, and then but if they're not in the range of your barrier, you're then going to try and move it, which is quite easy to miss. Pokemon are quite mobile, and that's the problem. If you miss it, it doesn't do much damage without hitting the wall. So that's the problem. And that's why Mr. Mime's in third. Because Pokemon Unite is such a small game, and the team fights at the end of the game are so important that a missed CC can cost your team the game, which compared to Wigglytuff and Aldagos, as I'll talk about in a bit, they are far more consistent and are the probably better and safer choice. What is nice about Mr. Mime, though, and Barrier in particular, is you can wall off the entrance into Zapdos from the other team's side, which can buy your team a valuable few seconds. It's also, of course, useful for Pokemon can't walk through the barrier. Well, enemy Pokemon can't, I should say. So you can use it to obviously trap Pokemon, to save yourself, same with teammate. But that is a really good use of it, and I really like Mr. Mime, though for me, they are the worst support in the game currently. In second place then, and I don't think there's any surprises here, so I won't leave you in suspense, Wigglytuff. Of course, Sing is probably the new move that you most associate with the Jigglypuff evolution line, and it's very powerful, as it should be, for the classic Pokemon in Pokemon Unite. The range of Sing is huge, and if enemy Pokemon, again, spends more than a few seconds in the radius, they're put to sleep. So it's quite easy, as Team CC goes, to get 3, 4, or 5 Pokemon in the range of Sing, which obviously is huge. It's very consistent, very good in team fights, it's safe, and this is why I think Wigglytuff is better than Mr. Mime. Also, Dazzling Gleam is probably the move that you most often see as the second move. And again, potential Team CC, a lot harder to hit than Sing, I will say. It's in like a cone. And so you can put people to sleep, and then as they're about to wake up, you can slow a bunch of them and do decent damage. But this is what makes Wigglytuff a very good Pokemon, especially coming into team fights. Your Sing is really powerful, Dazzling Gleam is decent, and your ultimate shields all allies Pokemon and prevents them from being CC'd for a few seconds. So very good team fight Pokemon. Very good skirmish Pokemon as well, of course. Obviously CC always very useful. Perhaps the only downside to Wigglytuff is a lack of damage as a melee support. Mr. Mime is also a melee support, but Mr. Mime has a number of ranged moves that provide damage. Wigglytuff really doesn't. You could go Roll Out and Double Slap, which is an incredibly fun combo to use, but it's not worth giving up the CC. That little bit extra damage. The damage isn't that great still. So you got to want to go for the max CC build on Wigglytuff. In first place then, no surprises, is Aldagos, who I think is probably by far, and in most tier lists I've seen, is the best support in the game. They're very simple to play, and they have consistent team-wide shields and damage from either Pollen Puff or Leaf Tornado, Personally, I prefer Pollen Puff because it can also be used to heal allies, but Leaf Tornado is also pretty good and provides speed boosts to your team. Aldagos' Unite move is also incredibly powerful. They are kind of the best of both Mr. Mime and Wigglytuff. So the Unite move, Aldagos jumps in the air, moves around very quickly, and picks a position to land, knocking up all enemies and providing a huge shield to your team. No, huge shield, sorry. Huge healing to your team. Better than a shield. So, an incredibly impactful teamfight Pokemon. And what I do love about Aldagos is they're effective throughout the entire game, because very early on in the game, people think you're a little squishy support and they'll try and kill you. But with Leafage and your AoE heal, you are very good at 1v1s. It is surprising how many Pokemon will try and kill you 1v1 and will just get caught out by how much damage you do. Leafage also slows. So by the time they've realized, oh, they're healing too much, they're doing too much damage, they're going to kill me, it's very hard for them to run away. So I love Aldagos, really fun to play, and ultimately their heal AoE and leafage damage makes almost any attempt to skirmish them and their lane pawn earlier in the game futile, because they can just out heal you and just constantly damage you. Aldagos is the best support Pokemon. And what I will say about Pokemon Unite is what I really like is all the support Pokemon are really fun to play. You know, if I have to play support, I'm happy to, because they're all really fun and special in their own ways. Moving on to all-rounders then, there's 4 of them. Charizard, Garchomp, Lucario, and Machamp. I'm going to get straight into it. Number 4, Charizard. I think he's the worst all-round in the game, and also just the worst Pokemon in the game. When I see a Charizard on the enemy team, I am happy. I feel like the odds of winning the game have just massively increased. Unfortunately, he is a very popular Pokemon, so the odds are he's also on your team. So, at least in that scenario, both teams have a dead weight, so I guess it's alright. I just don't feel like he has as much presence on the battlefield as the other all-rounders, or any other Pokemon. And I know people will say, oh, Venusaur's worse. I don't think so. I think Venusaur, his AoE slows people down, which goes into his Solar Beam and his ultimate. If you can get people in a choke point with Venusaur, he can wipe them out, which we will see later. But Charizard, I don't think he has the damage of the other all-rounders. I don't think he has the CC of the other all-rounders. Now, his ult does have CC, and his ult is really fun to use. You know, flying around, being a dragon, breathing fire down on people, all very cool. Unfortunately, there's a few issues with the ultimate. Firstly, if the opponent goes into a brush, you can't see them anymore, and you can't damage them or use your ult on them. So you're just sort of, in a 1v1, you're just kind of lying there, like, hoping they leave the bush. Secondly, you can still be hit while flying around in the sky, which I understand it would be overpowered if you could just fly around for ages and burn people, but it's not great. You're still quite squishy, Charizard, so quite often you're just killed in the air, which is disappointing. And the ult itself, yeah, it looks cool. One of the best animated moves in the game, in my opinion, but quite often, unless you're killing someone with it, which you don't do much damage anyway, in my opinion, so it's hard to do, you just kind of land, and then you don't care. You know, Gengar will just land and then go, oh, cool, and then just kill everyone. Now, what I do like about Charizard is that he looks cool, like I've said, and also, I like his moves. I do like them, I just don't think they do damage. Like Flamethrower and Flame Burst, I like using them, I just don't feel like they do much. And Flame Burst is cool, you know, you shoot the flame out, it lands an area on the floor, kind of like Venusaur's move, but the difference, as mentioned, is Venusaur slows you. With Charizard, you just kind of walk out of it, and that's it. It's done. You know, oh, cool, Flame Burst, I'll walk out of that. Damage isn't great on it either, so... And everyone's really mobile, so... Usually, you'll cast it, and by the time it's landed and done a tick of damage, they've hopped out of it. So, I just don't think he's good, quite frankly. Now, yesterday, as I'm recording this, they did announce their next patch, the buffs and nerfs to various Pokemon. So hopefully, he's a bit stronger next patch. But for now, I think he's the worst Pokemon in the game. In third place then is Garchomp. It's a strange one for me personally, because I keep seeing people online say that he's really strong and that he's even overpowered. And I just don't really see it. I think he's outclassed by the other 2 all-rounders and the attackers. and the Speedsters. I think they all do more damage than him. And I can't remember seeing a Garchomp win a 1v1 fight. And while people say that he is really strong in the late game, I think he's equally as strong as other Pokemon. So it seems kind of pointless to play a Pokemon who's weaker earlier and equally as strong later. You might as well just play the other Pokemon. I think a part of this is because he's quite hard to play. And again, it makes me think, why would you play a Garchomp over another Pokemon? He's harder to learn to do the equal amount of impact on the game with. So I feel like you're better off just picking one of the easier Pokemon. So yeah, what I do like about him is Sand Attack, which is unfortunately a move that he has at the beginning of the game, so he loses it. But I think it's fun to use, it's kind of unique, and it's annoying to play against, which I think that's kind of the point, really. Yeah, your opponent's moves should be difficult to play against and you need to adapt to them. But obviously he loses it, it's quite sad, and I just think the other two Pokemon on this list provide more to the team fights and the game in general. Maybe if you want a tanky all-rounder, Garchomp will be decent, but I think Lucario probably fills that role as well. So for me, Garchomp is in third place. Garchomp, Machamp. The reason why I keep mixing them up is because number 2, Machamp. Goddamn Pokemon Unite. I put them both in the same category. Very annoying. But anyway, yeah, Machamp. This was such a tough decision between him and Lucario. I played Machamp in the first week. He was so fun to play and so strong. Didn't buy him though. But very fun to play, very strong. Playing against a good Machamp is just oppressive. When he's running towards you with submission and he chucks you over his shoulder and then pummels you with close combat, you feel like there's not much you can do. It does so much damage. No matter what his combo of moves, to be fair, he's really good with all of them. I like that. Particularly Dynamic Punch in close combat. That's what I personally used when I played him. Do I think Submission might be better than Dynamic Punch? I'm not really sure, but either way, both combinations are really good. They hold you in place while he gets his full close combat on you. Yeah, on top of that, his Unite move blends really well with his kit. You can hold people in place, stun them, and then you just pummel them as you are locking them down in terrain. You can take out an entire team. Not just CC-wise, but Machamp is one of the best Pokemon to just team kill the entire enemy team. Really fun to play against. Well, really fun to play. Really horrible to play against if they're good, but I think he's just missed out to Lucario. On to Lucario then. While I may actually prefer to play Machamp, Lucario is an incredibly powerful pick, and it's just a monster to play against if the other player can play him well. His constant CC from his passive that knocks you up, and then his power-up punch, stuns you, burn rush, the constant CC, the high damage, it makes him horrible to play against, as I've said. And he can match Gengar in Zeraora. I think he has to play the fight better than them. He's a little harder to maneuver. But if you can dodge Gengar's Sludge Bomb with Burn Rush, you can kill Gengar, and he's an incredibly strong Pokemon. Brings a lot to the team fight, of course, with CC. Great mobility, he can just zip around the team fight, and his passive gives him a shield and a movement speed boost, which makes him quite tanky, which is why I think he fills that role maybe a little bit better than Garchomp. He's just really, really strong pick. And that passive, I've seen him escape from insane situations where I was sure they were doomed, they were dead, and then you just see them just zip away on the map and somehow survive. It's crazy. His ult also, just like Machamp, synergizes really well with his kit. It buffs his next power-up punch. Now, I do think he is a little bit harder to play than Machamp, but I think if you can play him well, he does provide a little bit more. The constant CC really is what gives it to me. And he does so much damage. And unlike Charizard, I do get concerned when I see Lucario on the other team. On to the attackers then. In Pokemon Unite, there are 3 defenders, 3 supports, 3 speedsters, 4 all-rounders, and 7 attackers. Kind of feel like they got a bit carried away with attackers, or it probably says something more about how they envisioned team compositions to be. But we'll get into attackers then. In 7th place is Venusaur. I want to say at the beginning, I think all attackers are good. I think anyone can work in a team. I'm not disappointed if I see Venusaur, but someone has to come last, and I think Venusaur is probably the weakest out of all of them. But it's still good, and in particular brings very good AoE damage, especially in choke points. If you can get your team a choke point, you can wipe them all out. One of my most proud clips is the one I put up where they were kind of chasing me and they were kind of trapped in a corner, and I thought, stuff it, I'm going to die if they're going to catch me because Venusaur has no ability. So I was like, stuff it, I'm just going to blast everything at them, and it went quite well. But anyway, so yeah, that's Venusaur's strength. Very kind of focused AoE damage. The problem with this, Sludge Bomb and Solar Beam, is Sludge Bomb is an AoE, Solar Beam is a very thin, long-ranged line. So, like I say, many Pokemon in the game are very mobile, so they can just hop right out of it if they have that, or eject button. They can get away from your moves quite easily. Venusaur's second problem, speaking of ability, is, like I say, they have none. So, a lot of Pokemon can catch you, and even with a jet button, there's not much you can do. So, if you fall behind with Venusaur and they have a Gengar, you're done. You're in a lot of trouble. The other move combination is Petal Dance and Giga Drain. I do really enjoy these. I don't think they're as good. I think you are more useful as kind of like a long-range cannon, ultimately. But these are really good. The problem with them is they involve getting close range, and that's obviously quite dangerous if you have no mobility. It's kind of, you're going all in, ultimately. And so you probably want to have a tank item, perhaps, instead of all damage items, if you're going to go with Petal Dance and Giga Drain. What they do mean is that you are very good in a prolonged lane skirmish, because you can keep Giga Draining, and if you can keep the fight going on, you can kind of out-sustain them. But yeah, I think Venusaur is good. Again, as perhaps someone to pick if your team refuses to go tank, then maybe you can be a tankier kind of go all in kind of Pokemon, but I'm going to have to put them in last place because I think the other 6 Pokemon bring a little bit more to the team. In 6th place is Cramorant, another really fun Pokemon to play and particularly adorable when they have the little Pikachu prey in their mouth. I think similar to Mr. Mime, this Pokemon is not played that often, probably because they are the least popular out of the Pokemon in the game. What Cramorant does bring to the team, though, is really good CC, especially with Hurricane and Surf. You bring a lot of CC and decent damage to the team, or you can go the more safe mobile build with Air Slash and Dive. Personally, I like to combine them. I go with Air Slash and Surf. You do a lot of damage, you're pretty safe, and you also have the all-important CC. Cramorant's Light move is also really fun. You don't really do much. It's weird. It's fun to watch, but you're ultimately just watching it. You basically turn into an auto cannon, an auto turret, and you just stand still and you just pew 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 at whoever the closest Pokemon is to you within range, and it does a lot of damage. If you don't get out of that range, it will kill you. It's really fun. It's really fun to use, even though, again, you're not really doing anything, you're just sort of watching it, but it's amusing. But I do like Cramorant. The reason for the low placing is largely down to there's another Pokemon coming up who provides more constant CC, as well as maybe a little bit more damage and a little bit more deadly if they catch you. But Cramorant's still great. If your team is in desperate need of CC, still a quality pick and just incredibly fun to play. In 5th place then is Greninja. I think ordering these next 3 is an incredibly tough task, and they are mostly interchangeable. And frankly, any of the 5 picks left are really good picks for your team. I think probably Greninja is slightly worse than the other 2, which is obviously why I put him in 5th. But let's talk about Greninja. Greninja is incredibly hard to kill with Substitute, Double Team, and Smokescreen. It's very hard to kill. You can lose a surefire kill with their abilities. They can just get away, and it's very easy to lose them. They also have healing from their second ability. They choose either Water Shuriken and Surf. They heal from that ability, and if you get hit by all the Water Shurikens, that's a lot of damage and can easily just one-hit you if you don't get out the way in time. Of course, it is a straight line, constant CC, kind of like Venusaur's Razor Leaf, so you can not too hard to get away from, but it deals a hell of a lot of damage. Most people do seem to choose Water Shurikens over Surf, so don't know what that means. For me personally, I really like Surf. The problem with Surf is there are so many Surfs in the game. You've got Slowbros, Greninjas, Cramorants, Blastoise is going to have a Surf. I feel like you need to vary the moves up, but maybe one of them could have been Waterfall, would have been maybe a better choice, but either way. So yeah, and Greninja's Unite move, again, also gives them ability, does quite a lot of damage, and they can dash to it, so adds extra mobility to them. What this means then ultimately is Greninja is just a menace to deal with if they're good, which is one of the main points I want to make. They're so hard to kill. They do quite a lot of damage. They don't provide as much CC though as some of the other options, and as I've just hinted at, they are, I think, probably the hardest attacker to play. You can, because of them needing to kind of hit and escape, it's very easy to either use your escape too early and you don't do enough damage, or you lose it too late and they manage to kill you before you really get to escape. And because of the lack of CC, I think, do you have a Pokemon in this list who are above them, and their constant damage is impossible to ignore over Greninja? In fourth place then is Alolan Ninetales. Fourth and third place are equal for me personally. You can pick either one. I think they're both amazing and bring somewhat similar stuff to the team. What makes Ninetales so good though is their constant CC. Merely being close to Ninetales allows them to put some CC on you with their passive, which picks a target close by and does a bit of damage to them and puts a freezing stack on them. It's the constant CC though that what makes Ninetales so good. They do have good damage, and they probably do have a little bit less damage than Greninja, but the thing is, when you freeze a target in place, you gain those seconds needed to catch up in DPS, and Ninetales is just a monster to play against. It's so annoying. They're constantly pushing you back, freezing you, and the damage is really high, particularly with the Avalanche Blizzard combination. Very devastating. If she can get the wall behind you and push you into it, it's so much damage. And just frozen in place, then she does more damage to you. What's also really good about Ninetales is they can also provide a more supportive role to the team. Should your team not have a support, with Aurora Veil, it increases the team's defense, movement speed, and boosts Ninetales' attacks. So it's really useful. Dazzling Gleam, with that as well, allows Ninetales to become similar to Venusaur, this kind of closer range support Pokemon. Still does a decent amount of damage, not quite as much as the other combination, but it allows her to be versatile and fill more roles in the team. The second build, the short range build, is particularly good against Pokemon like Gengar and Absol who want to jump on you and dive on you. You can boost the defense of your team that can make you harder to kill, and with Dazzling Gleam just stun them all in place, which allows your team the seconds needed to kill the damage threat on the other team. But yeah, that's what makes, I think, Ninetales for me above Greninja, is their versatility, and just the high CC cannot be ignored. It's so important in team fights in particular. My third pick then is Gardevoir. As I mentioned, very close to Ninetales, hard to choose between them, but I think I probably a little bit biased. I prefer playing Gardevoir. They're so fun, so powerful. So I've put Gardevoir in third. The problem with AoEs in Pokemon Unite, particularly Charizard's Fire Blast and Venusaur's Sludge Bomb, is their circle AoEs. So you put them, they stay on the floor, and hopefully the Pokemon stays in them for some reason. But quite often they just hop out and a lot of the damage is missed if they move. Gardevoir kind of solves that in two ways. Firstly, by having an AoE and Psyshock, which she can move multiple times, a little bit around in the circle, and it procs 3 times, and also Moonblast, which I think is the best combination. Moonblast, you hit them, it stuns them and any Pokemon around them in a small radius, and then you can Psyshock on top of them. This does a lot of damage and can wipe out multiple targets if you are able to hit them all. And it's fun to use, quite easy to use as well, which is the added bonus of easy to use, high CC and damage. Arguably a bit overpowered maybe, but it is what it is at the moment. I don't think those overpowered as other Pokemon, I guess I should say. On top of this then is also the Unite move. So if you've hit your Moonblast, hit your Psyshock, you can then use your Unite move, which pulls all Pokemon in a huge circle into the center and procs and does even more damage. You can team kill entire teams with this if you're lucky and they all stand near each other, which is obviously unlikely, but the potential is there. Another reason I think Gardevoir is really good in this current meta is they are kind of a counter to Pokemon like Gengar. So what Gengar and Zeraora want to do is jump on you and smash you damage and hop away. What Gardevoir does is, of course, if you hit them with Moonblast, they're stunned and then you can hit them with Psyshock. If you don't hit Moonblast, they jump on you, you can put Psyshock on yourself, which will then discourage them staying on top of you because they'll take a lot of damage and potentially you could still kill them. On top of this is their passive. Synchronize, which mirrors any damage over time and slows on them onto the Pokemon that cast the move. So Gengar's Sludge Bomb, it slows and puts a dot on you. It will mirror that onto Gengar. So if Gengar jumps in on you, they are slowed within your Psyshock, and it's going to do a hell of a lot of damage, and potentially you'll kill Gengar. What both Gardevoir and Ninetales lack, potentially, is mobility. Neither of them have any moves to really jump away or get away quickly, but they do so much damage in CC that they come from the school of, I don't need to run away from you if I can kill you immediately. So it's why I love both these Pokemon, and Gardevoir is one of my favorite Pokemon to play in the entire game. And second place then is perhaps my most controversial pick, It's Pikachu. As every other list I've seen puts Pikachu on top, but for me, Cinderace's stupidly high damage from their auto attacks, which have a stupidly high range, puts them ahead of Pikachu. But I'm going to look at Pikachu now. Cinderace comes later. The Pikachu is still an incredibly impressive and deadly Pokemon. They do have early game damage and CC with Electro Web, which makes it incredibly dangerous to trade with them and opens up the opportunity for your mid laner to come and gank your lane and secure kills. The damage from Electro Ball, if you go that path, is also insane early game. It does so much ridiculous damage. It locks onto you as well. And it's annoying to play, and it's really horrible to play against. And in later game, it does more damage to Pokemon on low health, so it can secure your kills from relative safety for you. The other move Pikachu has, which I'm quite interested in, is Volt Tackle. So Volt Tackle, Pikachu dives at the enemy Pokemon, knocks them up, stuns them in place, does quite a bit of damage, and then interestingly, unlike other Pokemon like Charizard and Cinderace, who dive in and then stay there, Volt Tackle puts Pikachu back in a safe place. It's a very safe move to use because they can't damage you as you Volt Tackle. So it's quite interesting. What this probably also means, though, is that Pikachu perhaps has a harder time closing down kills if they then hop away. Pikachu is quite far away. Their auto attacks also don't do as much damage as Cinderace, and they don't have as much range. You can also go the build, which this is one I prefer, the Thunderbolt and Thunder build. It's basically 2 AoEs, which do a lot of damage, and a stun Pokemon in them. If you take that combination, it'll be very hard for the team to score on the point if you're there, or you can force the enemy team off their point because you can stand quite far away, just drop both AoEs on the point, and they last for a few seconds, and it's really hard to score against a Pikachu. And of course, an AoE stun means that you can potentially stun multiple people, and you can deal a lot of damage. Perhaps what Pikachu also lacks is mobility. And this is why I think I see a lot of Pikachus struggle more than most other Pokemon. I've seen quite a few Pikachus get 0 points, barely any kills and assists, because Pikachu's kind of hard to play in the sense of they don't have any mobility, and they don't have as much CC or kind of high immediate damage of a Gardevoir. So if you can get onto Pikachu and they aren't careful, you can wipe them out very quickly. They do incredibly high damage, but I think it's kind of hard to get the balance right Pikachu of your range is a lot shorter than other Pokemon, so you kind of want to get closer, but it opens you up to being CC'd yourself and just destroyed. So they're still really good. Pikachu is still incredibly powerful and annoying Pokemon to face, as the mascot of the game was always likely to be. It's one of the reasons why I'm surprised Charizard's so weak. As another mascot of the game, you'd think they'd be kind of made to be really strong, but Pikachu is a really good Pokemon. However, the Pirate Bunny is king. Cinderace is oppressive, and if they get ahead in your lane, it's done. There is very little stopping them from killing you over and over and over again. They have stupidly high damage on their auto attacks, and they have stupidly high range. So they kill you, you come back into lane, and they're just kicking balls of fire in your face, and it feels like there's nothing that you can do. I've described a couple of other Pokemon as oppressive, and I'll use Machamp as an example. Machamp needs to get into melee range, putting themselves in danger, and then use their moves and hit them all to kill you. Cinderace doesn't need to do that, just auto attacks. They have the moves if they want to use them. They don't need to. Just auto attack you to death. There's nothing you can do. Like, the range is so high that it's hard for you to trade back with them. You need to get into their auto attack range. So if they just keep pressing auto attack on you, Just keep pressing A, and you get into range, they'll shoot you and they'll do more damage than you can probably do to them. So they do have moves, of course. If you do manage to get away, Pyro Ball does have quite high range, so they can shoot that to finish you off. Their Unite move is a lock-on huge ball of fire, which again is perfect for picking you off. They can also go with Flame Charge, which allows them to dash forward, again, so closing down the range on you, and there's also Feint, which gives them a huge amount of movement speed. They can chase you down and kill you that way. Personally, I don't like Flame Charge. Well, Flame Charge is a good move, but I don't see the point. It's kind of risky. It can be used in an escape, sure, but it means that you have to get closer to the other Pokemon, and I just don't feel like you need to do that. Just stay far back and shoot them with your attack. Feint is also gives them the ability to escape, and also they can just ignore CC. So if you see a Pokemon that's about to CC you, if you press Feint in time, it makes you invincible. So you dodge the CC, and you have a huge amount of movement speed to just run away from them. This is perfect against Pokemon like Snorlax, who you can see that they're about to CC you. The circle comes up, and if you immediately press Feint, you'll still be in the CC, but you'll ignore the stun, you'll ignore the damage, and you can just run away. So Cinderace is incredibly powerful. I think if Gengar and Zeraora weren't as strong as they are right now, then Cinderace would be getting a lot more hate from the community. What I will point out is that in the patch notes that have just been released yesterday, as I'm recording this, Cinderace's auto attack and Feint are being nerfed, which I think kind of proves my point a little bit. Though I'm sure even after the nerf, Cinderace, the range is really the problem, and it's what makes Cinderace such a good pick. So I think Cinderace will still be, for me, the best attacker you can have in the game. Yeah, finally, at the end, with the last category, Speedsters. I think it's probably the most crucial role in Unite, and the one most likely to carry the game, though that sometimes isn't possible. Anyway, there are 4 Speedsters: Absol, Gengar, Talonflame, and Zeraora. To begin with then, is Talonflame, the Pokemon I chose as my first free Pokemon, because I like the idea of speeding around the map and scoring goals. Unfortunately, Talonflame is the Andy Murray of Unite, stuck in the role where 3 of the best Pokemon are, and is sort of, he's good, he is really good. It's just, he's not them, you know what I mean? It's like I say, he's not bad, he still does really good damage, and is able to get around the map incredibly quickly to gank lanes. He just doesn't have the insane damage that the other 3 have, and isn't quite as able to wipe out entire teams. Well, I mean, he can, but it's a lot harder for him to do it, and it's realistically not going to happen. What Talonflame does have is some survivability with Fly. If you have that up, you're incredibly hard, if not impossible to kill, unless they can kill you in the split second that you're casting it. But the odds are you've used that to engage, so you might not have it to escape with, and there's a good chance that you've instead taken Brave Bird due to it resetting Flame Charge or Aerial Ace, which probably does make Brave Bird the better move. The Unite move is actually really good at dealing really good damage and potentially dragging multiple enemies out of the fight, quite literally, and it does create some very amusing moments. But I just don't think he has the ridiculous damage that the next 3 Pokemon do have. I'm now going to show you a little clip of a few kills I got with Absol, and then I want you to remember that I still think Gengar and Zeraora are better and can do more damage. Yeah, so that's Absol's ridiculous damage, and if he's chasing you down, and you're probably dead. Like, if you haven't got much health, he has quite a lot of moves that can just jump on you, finish you off. His mobility is insane, and literally all his moves allow him to jump in some way. Especially Sucker Punch, which basically turns him into a Pokemon-seeking missile. So like I say, if you've not got much health left, he uses Sucker Punch, he will just jump on you no matter how far you get away, and he'll kill you. Perhaps the one piece of good news if you're fighting Absol is that if he picks Psycho Cut, which is what the move I used in that clip, he can miss that, and if he misses it, a lot of his damage is gone. So ultimately he has a choice between Psycho Cut, which does an insane amount of damage if he hits you with it, and Sucker Punch. So Sucker Punch does less damage, but is more reliable. So that's perhaps the one benefit to him if you haven't facing him, is that he has to make a choice between just an insane amount of damage or reliability and doing damage. His ultimate is actually really good at securing kills. It hits every Pokemon in a huge area immediately for a lot of damage. So yeah, so really good at Zapdos fight. You can potentially kill multiple enemies and you can secure Zapdos. So it's very dangerous to fight Absol. With the Zapdos team fight, you probably have to try and kill him beforehand. If you can, of course. He's got an insane amount of damage. But ultimately, I feel the next two Pokemon are better. I think they have more heavier damage and it's ultimately more reliable for them to do damage in the ways they do. The last two Pokemon are probably the most powerful in the game and are essentially tied for first spot. It just comes down to opinion, really. I just find Gengar's way of murdering entire teams more annoying to deal with. So with that being said, I have put Zeraora in second place. Zera has the two perfect qualities of being a top tier pick in a MOBA. Relatively easy to play and deals wickedly insane damage. So he's also got very good mobility, so can be tough to kill and can just zoom around the map incredibly quickly. I personally use and find the most common build is Volt Switch, and Discharge, allowing you to dive in, do a huge amount of AoE damage that pretty much can't be stopped. Discharge gives you a bit of a shield as well for extra survivability, and if things are a little too dicey in there, you can always hop back out with a second cast of Volt Switch. Wild Charge, I believe, is getting a buff and will have been buffed by the time this video comes out, but I don't think it's as good. It does pretty much the same damage, I think, as Discharge. The problem with it is that it's sort of an aimed shot a little bit. It jumps a little bit onto someone and then hits them, so you can miss it. And if you get CC'd before you cast it, then obviously it's pointless and you die. It doesn't give you the survivability. So personally, in Discharge is the safe option that deals an insane amount of damage. And just in case anyone does survive that insane amount of damage, you have your Unite move, which is essentially even more damage, even more AoE damage. It's like a lightning bolt that kind of chases down someone, hits them, and then just does a huge amount of damage. So yeah, if Zera gets ahead, then you can wipe out your entire team in about 2 seconds, and it's game over unless you can have a lucky Zapdos play. In first place then, and probably no real surprise, is Gengar. He's one of my favourite Pokemon in the entirety of Pokemon, and I am really sad at all the hate he's getting in the game, but it is justified. He is very, very overpowered. The Sludge Bomb Hex combo is horrific, and if you get hit by a Sludge Bomb, and it's quite a decent size AoE, you're dead 99% of the time. You don't even have to stay in it, he just has to hit you with it. It puts the damage over time on you, and he can just keep on jumping on you and killing you, and yeah, not much you can do. As such, that's pretty much the only way to play Gengar. Unlike Zeraora, where you can choose to go with Spark, and some people do go Wild Charge, even though I don't recommend it, I never see anyone go anything other than Sludge Bomb Hex with Gengar, unless of course you're new. When the game first came out, a couple of people, including myself, I tried out Dream Eater, and yeah, it just clearly wasn't as good. So there's only one way to play him, really. The reason that I place Gengar above Zeraora is you can kind of kill him. Like, he jumps in a Volt Switch, you can target him then. If he jumps out, you know where the Volt Switch is, so you can target there instead. You can kill him. It's hard to do, you can kill him though. With Gengar, it's way harder, because he hexes, so he turns invisible briefly, jumps on you, then he'll hex again like a second or so later, and again, and it's hard to get sustained damage on him. Gardevoir can kind of do it, but it's still like, you can still get out of it. Obviously, if he has eject button, that's an extra jump that you can do. So yeah, and then even after all that, he has this Unite move, which allows him to turn invisible, so now you can't hit him anyway, and then he can just wait out your damage and then pop up and do even more damage in an AoE. And if you've survived all that, then you deserve to kill him, in my opinion. So yeah, and his passive as well. I see a lot of people complaining how fast he is around the map. Between his passive and float stone, he's ridiculously fast, and it's just terrifying. Just watching him running at you, knowing what's going to happen. You know, the pressure on you is to dodge that sludge bomb, which you can do. Don't get me wrong, you can do it, but it is very hard to do, and you can kind of bait out. Anyway, but yeah, the only perhaps weakness and the reason why I was tempted to put Zera Aura above Gengar is Zera Aura is constantly good throughout the game. Like even at the beginning, agility and slash is a good combo. It can jump in you and knock you up. I think Ghastly's Lick and Will-O-Wisp aren't as fantastic. Like sure, Lick pulls you in, but it doesn't do the damage that Zera Aura can do, and I think you're just easier to kill as Ghastly. You've got no ability to escape from as Ghastly, whereas you can with Zera Aura if you get in a bit of trouble. So yeah, you can. So if you watch a lot of streams and you see people playing Gengar, you will often hear them saying they're waiting for 7, which is wait until they get Hex and Sludge Bomb basically. So yeah, you can kill Gengar. I'd say you have to kind of focus him down very early, but of course the game is a very short game. Those first 7 levels go by pretty quickly, so that's his only weakness, and yeah, good luck with that. That's the end of my tier list. Thank you for watching. If there's any discussion or feedback, please feel free to leave in the comments below. And you know, maybe some of you can convince me that Charizard is, you know, not as trash as I believe. I will admit, in the days filming, I have played with 1 or 2 Charizards who've done a decent job, so maybe he's not quite as bad as before. He has been buffed, though, to be fair, so, you know, it's not... I wasn't entirely wrong. But anyway, I still don't think it's that great. But either way, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.